welcome to the Purpose and Profit Club podcast, Sabrina Walker Hernandez. I'm so happy you're here because I feel like I grabbed you at GiveCon and I started peppering you with all of my board questions on an escalator, and that escalator was not long enough. So we had to have you on.
Yes.
So welcome, and please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, so my name is Sabrina Walker Hernandez. I am the president and CEO of Building Better Boards, and I love all things boards. And I will say that because I've seen it from both sides. I managed a board, and now I serve on 5 boards. 2 of them are fundraising boards, 3 are where I give out money. And I've seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Amazing. Yeah, you blew my mind when you told me how many boards you currently serve on. I was like, this lady walks the walk. She is in it.
I am in it and I love it. And everybody does it different. And anytime that we can say, here's a best practice, have you tried this? Do it this way, or here's a suggestion. It always makes it better because sometimes we just kind of see things from the seat that we're sitting in and from the way that we've always done it. And so this allows me to see the way it is done across various platforms and even different from the way I did it when I was sat in that seat. And it has allowed me to, it's like I said, it's this vault of best practices.
Yep.
And here it is. Pick which one is going to work for you and your organization.
So let's start with a spicy take. What is something about boards that nobody really wants to say out loud, but we can say, or you want to share a spicy take with us, your spicy take on boards?
My spicy takes on board. Okay, so no one wants to say this out loud, but there are a such thing as board bullies.
Oh, say more.
Say more. So I have served with people that oftentimes, look, I'm not saying that they're not good people. They're good people because they said yes. They said yes to serving on this nonprofit board or this corporate advice, whatever it is, they said yes. And they said yes because they wanted to do good. But in absence of them knowing what their role and responsibility is, and in absence of us onboarding them properly, they come in thinking my job is to tell you what to do. And because they sometimes perceive themselves to be above the CEO in a certain area, it comes across as board bullying.
Yep.
And sometimes we'll talk about that.
That's good. So let's just kind of level set then. Your philosophy, your ideology is that how should the board operate with the executive director or CEO? Are they not above them? Or how should they operate?
You are partners. You're partners in this journey, and you're trying to solve a problem. And what that problem is different for everyone. If you're in a after school space, you're trying to solve the problem of ensuring that kids have access to quality after school program. If you're in the environmental space, that's the mission. But you are partners on this journey and you're trying to solve a problem, right? Now, when you look at legally, right? There's a board of directors, there's a CEO, and the board has the authority. I don't want to say a board doesn't have the authority. They have the authority, right? However, you're not going to take the mission further if you're using that authority as a detriment to the organization. It is a true partnership. And so you have to work towards that partnership.
Okay. So what this is reminding me of is something that I've been thinking about lately when somebody says, sort of laments about really what you're describing is like, whether it's the board or one person at the board that is just kind of in this oversight type of role. And I was thinking about it lately and I was like, it actually feels like when it's this and not done in the right way, but in the wrong way, a parent and a child.
Yes.
Only we are all adults. We are all adults. And when it's not that partnership that you're talking about, it is my 6-year-old who just said to me yesterday, I need a third pair of sneakers. And I was like, do you need a third pair of the same, like your foot grows all the time, right? That's like a good where I'm going to go ahead and say yes or no to that, right? Versus where it gets in this cycle of, I feel like I'm asking for permission of my board. I feel like I'm asking for approval for my board on things that are not necessarily board approval items. So what do you think? Yeah.
Well, I'm so on board with that. But here's the kicker, too. I say that about, we don't talk about board bullies, but on the flip side of that, I've had this conversation with CEOs all the time. They too sometimes set up the dynamics. When you say approval, right? Why are you going to your board for approval to spend $500? Why are you going to your board for approval to discipline or terminate a staff? Why are you inviting your board to micromanage? You are sending them mixed signals.
That's right.
That is not.
What are your thoughts on that? Why? I have a theory, but why are they doing that?
So I just had a conversation with someone the other day, and she said, well, I just want them to know that I'm spending the money right. I just want them to know that, this is a nonprofit and I'm taking care of the resources. And I was like, yeah, that's what the budget approval process is for. They don't manage but you manage the budget. And so as I continue to talk to people, and I have another client, and they happen to all be female. I don't have this a lot with the males. They will say things like, well, they're volunteers, and I don't want to put a lot of pressure on them. So, especially when it comes to fundraising, or they'll say things. Well, I can't tell them what to do. And I'm like, but yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah, I do think it can kick off in this way. And once it starts in that way, it is like you're turning around a ship, which can be a slow, arduous process.
Yes.
I also think particularly with women, we are geared for being people pleasers. We are geared for what I call group think, right? Especially in the nonprofit world. And I think those are the two kind of drivers of, a lot of like the marketing and fundraising side we do that I like hammer home to my clients is I'm like, you don't put that email through a committee for approval. You're not putting it through 10 people to go, hey, 10 people from all walks of life are on our board. And by the way, have your own lives. Will you read this email before I send it out? That's just our Tuesday update. Like that again is like, that's what I would do for my child. Why are we doing that for adults?
And here's the thing. In building that partnership, your partner needs to be confident that you can handle the situation. Right. And if you are saying, can you read this email for me before I send it out? Or can you approve this $500 or whatever it is? You are not projecting the confidence that is required in a partnership.
Yeah. So what would you say then to the CEO, to the executive director who is currently going to their board for approval for items, whether it's $500? I've had people say, I got to check with my board for $200. Wow. I've got to check with my board for $0. I still, anything over $1, and then I have people who will say, a couple $1,000, $5,000. And it's interesting. It is an arbitrary threshold that I find is not necessarily established in writing. It's established in just the culture of, well, I don't know. I just feel like I should ask someone. Is there a threshold? What should that look like?
So there's such things as procurement policies, right? And so in those procurement policies, you can establish that threshold. And for my organization, it was anything over $5,000. I had to get board approval for it. Outside of that, it was no board approval. And so that threshold of $5,000 in our partnership, we established that threshold. That's what they were comfortable with.
That's right.
That's what I was comfortable with. It put some guidelines in place. It didn't slow down the operations of the organization. And so that's where that partnership comes in, and having those procurement policies. Look, that is a part of the board's role. It is trusteeship. I'm going to use the word, it's oversight, but that's oversight meaning you have an annual operating budget. You have policies. You have procedures. That is what it is. And then ensuring necessary resources is making sure you have a qualified CEO and that you are fundraising. That is your role.
That's it.
And in absence of knowing, again, what your role is, a lot of board members will create what they think they should be doing because people don't understand our industry. Look, I've been with my husband 32 years. I've been in the nonprofit industry for 28 of those 32 years. He looked at me the other day and he said, I don't know about this nonprofit world. And I'm like, Jesus, like you live with me. I live, breathe, and eat this stuff. And I get a little frustrated because he's like, well, what does the board do? And how does that work? And I'm like, okay, you're a leader in the community. If someone invites you on their board, here's the thing. If someone invites him on their board, they're going to assume because he's a leader in his field that he knows what it means to serve on a board.
Yeah.
He has no idea. And what's going to happen is when he says yes, he's going to sit there and adopt the culture that is resistance, not push back on why are we doing it like this? Isn't there a different way to do this? And it just becomes this thing that we do it this way because this is the way it's always been done. And we're afraid. And when I say we, CEOs are afraid to say, here's a different way.
That's right.
I would say it's a sense of fear, one, but there's also a lack of professional development in our industry as well. So, you're a CEO in a small organization. You don't have a budget process. That's one. You got to get everything approved. That's two. And let's say, there's a summit or a workshop and it costs $97 or $250. Your mindset immediately goes to, oh no, my board. Oh no, we could not do. Why are they charging for that? We are a nonprofit organization that should be free for us. Girl, I've heard it all.
Why is that a problem, Sabrina? Why is that a problem?
That is what you called have you ever heard of the culture of philanthropy? I know you have. You're in this business. The culture of philanthropy.
Yeah.
And that begging mindset tells us that there is scarcity as opposed to abundance. That begging mindset says we are a nonprofit and we don't invest in our professional staff or our board because we have to make sure we take care of the resources. And in that begging mindset, taking care of the resources is only direct service.
That's right.
And that philanthropy mindset, it says, if I invest in my people, they're going to get an increased skill set. When they get an increased skill set, we can increase our fundraising. When we increase our fundraising, we can increase the number of clients that we serve. It requires vision.
Yeah.
So check your mentality, check your mind.
And there's a leap to that, right? There's a leap of like, I'm going to spend $97 in the workshop. I'm going to spend $3,000 on the thing.
Yes.
And there is a space between that investment and then it returning an ROI. But holding all of your dollars so tightly keeps your organization exactly where it is. That's sort of the thing that I see happen again and again.
Exactly
and again.
Where it is.
Yeah.
So I will share this, and people, and you might get this too. They might ask, well, how much should you invest in professional development? Look, again, we are in an industry best practices. All I can tell you is from my lived experience and from Christina, your lived experience. When I sat in that seat, my budget was $700. When I first inherited, the budget was like $750,000. So we invested like $15,000 in professional development. That professional development included myself, my staff, and my board. When we grew our budget to about 2.5 million, we invested at about 32,000.
Yeah.
That's still a low percentage.
Yeah. Yes.
in professional development.
Yes. That still is a low percentage. Yeah. Yeah.
Percent. So it pays to invest in your professional development. And
Mm-hmm.
we all know this. Your mama told you this, or your family told you, whoever told you this. If it's for free, you might not be. You get what you pay for. I don't
Yeah.
even know how to say it differently.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
what. That's
Well,
it.
also you take it more seriously. You show up to the calls, you do the work when it's paid.
Yes.
I mean, I know this, I know this, I know this. I am this. I am the
Yes.
person who's like, I'll sign up for that. Yeah, no, I'm going to flake on it when it's free.
Yes.
When I put my Tuesday night ceramics class, I invested money in it. My butt is showing up, even when it doesn't feel like it.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
same is said for boards of directors. Look, your board of directors, again, they need professional development.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I have had so many people like, how do you identify your board chair?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the tag you're it. That's what we're doing out here. So
That
when
is
you
how I was board secretary. That is how I became board secretary. I was like, no, no, no. Oh, damn it. No, no,
exactly
no,
ain't going in.
no.
Now I got stuff back.
Not it. I didn't say not it fast enough,
And you
That
didn't
was my first foray. Yes, yes.
into it. And that's not, look, serving on a board is an honor. And you have to position it as an
That's right.
honor. And it shouldn't be a tag, you're it. It should
Mm-hmm.
be, you want to do this for the betterment of the organization. But a lot of times is we, as board members, because I'm looking at it from both sides too.
That's right.
As a board member, you're like, dang it, I got stuck with second. Dang it, I got stuck
Mm-hmm.
with this, because you're working in a framework that's not organized or professional.
Right.
And you know that, oh God, I got to do all this work.
Former auction committee member, also here. That was another dang it moment.
Yes.
You want your board members to, and it's not that I didn't want to help either of these organizations thrive.
Yes.
It's that I those were not my natural skill sets, right? And so, yeah.
You
want
were
to meet
a
people.
willing victim who said yes.
That's right.
And they said, all right. And not your natural skill set. And nobody said, here's some training you can do. Nobody said, let me send you over to auction camp, or let me send you over here to the. Nobody did that. And that's what I'm saying. That's how we set our boards up for failure. And then we get frustrated when we say our boards won't fundraise, or our board won't
That's right.
or our board won't do that. And I'm like, well, what experience are you creating for them? You're building a team, and you got to create an experience for them. Again, they're giving up their time.
That's
they're
right.
Giving up their talent, and they're giving up their treasure. That's a whole nother conversation, because you got to talk about that when you join the board. But again, go ahead.
Let's talk about. I am going to talk about when you join the board. Okay, so we got to talk about recruitment, because that is a big one. That's a big one, especially I would say for early stage nonprofits who are on their way to hit 1 million. Board recruitment is just a challenge, and I find people come to me with, it's a mixed bag, but there is this unintentional kind of belief system of like, I just need warm bodies. Sometimes it's that. And so that's when we get just a board that's
just warm bodies. That's
you
what
get just warm bodies. Yeah.
Ask for.
If you're like, well, I don't just want warm bodies, right? I do want a board that's passionate about our work. I do want a board that is committed to helping.
Mm-hmm.
But where I've tried, where do I find them? That's the big question.
That's always the big question. Where do I find them? And here's the deal. You're not going to find them by posting a post on LinkedIn or Facebook. That's not going to happen. If you recall, I said that serving on a board is an honor. And so you have to present it as such. And there's a camp that says, yeah, put it out there, do that. But there, in my lived experience, again, it is a exclusive process. People like exclusivity. I don't care how you shape it, what it looks like. And so it is another board member inviting someone to be on the board, but not in a way that they're guaranteed to be on the board. It is, we have a slot open, and your name came up for consideration. Would you be willing to apply?
All
You are
right, everyone.
setting the
She's saying
tone.
board application. She's not
Exactly.
just saying, they said yes, I'll take anyone.
I saw them in the grocery store, and and they said they would, and so then I just put them on the roster.
That's right.
Do
And
better.
now I don't know why they're not coming to meetings.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, yeah, they didn't even know they were on the board. It was a
Yeah.
conversation. It would be nice.
Okay, so some recruitment through warm connections. That's an
yes.
avenue. I'm hearing the objection in my ear. I can just hear it. We don't have anyone with any suddenly, and no one has any warm connections to anyone.
So here you go. Here's one of the things that I learned early on when I first became a CEO. I remember someone in the community, my former CEO. She called me and she said, "They say you're never in the office," and I say, "That's right."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I cannot run this organization from my desk. I have to be out.
Yep.
I have to go to the chamber meetings. I have to go to the city council meetings. I need to go to the Rotary meeting, to the Kiwanis meeting, to the Lions meeting. I have to be the face of the organization so that we can attract the right people to the organization."
That's right.
And so that should be your mindset. You need to be out in the community, in those circles. And you also, at any place that you are, including church, you're always filtering for opportunity for the organization.
That's right.
And
your
so
barista should know what you do. Like the people should in your, the same 10 places you go in over the course of a week. Yeah, I think there is something about the people in aftercare know what I do, right? The people that I see and why does it matter? Why doesn't it? Like opening up your possibility. And I think to your point of like, you got to get out from behind the desk, right?
You got to get out from behind the desk. And if you're saying, well, all my board members are virtual, then from behind the desk for you may look like establishing a authority on LinkedIn. Maybe that's it. But you have to get from behind the desk and you have to meet people where they are. Look, people like success and people will follow success. I would not join a board that presented themselves as, oh, we just need a warm body. Oh, we just need you to just show up when you can. Oh, we just need what you can spare. That's not where successful people who are going to take you to the next level hang. That is not their mindset. That is not their wave trajectory. They like success. So I don't like the term fake it till you make it, but even if you gotta fake it till you make it, you got the job description.
I think too, it's like, what's the version of your organization 5 years from now? Show up as that CEO today. What meetings are you going to? What conversations are you having? Who are you putting yourself in front of? You've got to do that now. And I promise you're not just sitting behind a screen. And I think my version that I hear sometimes is, Christina, we're posting on social media. Where are the donations? And I'm like, it is not if you post it, it will come. It is not if you put on LinkedIn, the applications will come a flooding. That's why, and that's why so much of what I teach is rooted in partnerships, right? It's rooted in relationships. And so what I'm hearing is a very similar thing here with board.
Yeah. It's the same thing. People want to be a part of success. And so you have to create that success for them. And it doesn't mean so let me give you a real life example. I remember when I inherited my board and great board members, great, nice people, but they were not the people that I needed to get to the next level. And so I went to one of our donors and very influential person in the community. And I said, I had to have a plan. I said, this is what I want the board to look like.
Yeah.
I said, this is what we have. And he helped strategize who we needed to get on the board to start that transformation. It took a while to do the transformation, but sometimes you just need that one catalyst that can say, oh, they're on the board. Maybe this is something I could look at as an opportunity. right?
There it is. Yeah.
And so that's how you have to do it. But as long as you sit back and say, well, nobody's going to serve on this board. I put it on LinkedIn and nobody said anything and nobody did anything. You're going to continue to get what you get. And so
Yeah.
again, it goes back to mindset. A lot of this goes back to mindset.
It really
And
does. Yeah.
you got to have that philanthropic look. Philanthropy means the love of humankind. And so you have to have that philanthropic mindset and not this begging mentality that
That's right.
sometimes we easily embrace. And I know it's a shock for some, depending on where you're at in your development and your organization. Because for some people, if they're literally at the start, they just started this nonprofit because they used to go out. Let's say they used to go out and hand clothes out to the homeless, and somebody said, you should start a nonprofit so you can get a tax. People will give to you then. That's a myth. They're not just going to give to you because you're good and you started a nonprofit. There's so many out there. We have a choice about where we give our time and our talent and our treasure. And we want to make sure that we're giving it to something that's going to be around for a long term. And if you're honest and say, this is where we're at in the development, and this is how I need your help to take us to the next level, the person who's willing to take on that challenge will gladly accept it. I've done that. I've gladly accepted that challenge for a startup nonprofit. Now we're 5 years in, and I'm like, okay, guys, we need to start bringing in people that are not in our circle.
Yeah.
We need to start expanding. What is that going to force you to do? That's going to force you to send that daggone board packet 72 hours in advance, like I've been telling you for the last 5 years, instead of sending it to me like the hour before the meeting, because we all cool, right? So we have to also say, okay, what are we doing here? And acknowledge our shortfalls and work towards increasing those, increasing our abilities.
Do you believe that like the starter board could turn into your scaling board, or do you believe that the board does evolve and that it will, that sort of the people that got you there, that laid that foundation, tends to be, I find, friends, family, people people cheering you on.
Yes. The board needs to evolve. It needs to evolve. And it has to evolve. So I'm an avid believer in term limits. I am. But I'm also an avid believer in, if a board member is producing, then they get to stay. So that look in my organization, it looked like we had 1, 2, and 3 year terms. Anybody that was new comes in a 1 year term. If we like them, they like us, we move them up to a 2, a 3 year term. And then we can renew that 3 year term as many times as we want to, as long as they're producing. Okay. So, and then with the new board last year, so I said this organization has been around for 5 years. They were very, very open in the recruitment process, telling me what they needed me for. I was the one with the, background in nonprofit, all of that good stuff. And what happens, and I was just share what happened to me, is year 3, I was tired, right? I'm like, y'all, everybody has to level up. It just can't be because you have this experience that I'm going to leave it all on you. So I was burning out, and I remember I'm telling them, I think I'm not going to renew my term. I think this is going to be it for me.
Yeah.
And I remember the shock and the like, oh my God, what are we going to do? But it has to be done in order to make room for the next level. Because if you stay, and you can't stay if you're producing, but if you stay and no one else around you is producing, then are you enabling certain behaviors?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So you gotta do always do what is best for the organization. Always, so, even as a board member.
When you have a board member who maybe used to produce, as you say, used to be engaged, used to, when they say like, yeah, I'll do that. and they used to
Mm-hmm.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're not anymore, and they haven't been anymore for some time. What next?
What next is a conversation because they
Yeah,
might be experiencing exactly what I was experiencing.
yeah,
I'm feeling taken advantage of. I need other people to step up. Have that conversation. And
yeah,
so I'm just, again, my experience is they had that conversation with me and I said, this is what I need in order to stay another 2 years or
yep,
3 years, whatever that term was. This is what I need. And it was an honest and open conversation, and it made a change in our board and our dynamics. I'm proud to say about that board right now is we went from 7 people, now we're at 11 people, and we're inviting 2 people that's not in our inner circle. We're actually
yes.
interviewing 2 people not in the inner circle, so I'm very proud of them. And
I
it
love
didn't
that.
happen overnight,
Yep,
and
yep.
it's difficult conversations that have to happen.
Yeah. And I think to your point of just feeling that burnout, feeling like if we just jump in the shoes of the board member and you think about their experience to our earlier conversation of asking permission, whether it's, will you look at this email? Will you look at this appeal? What do you think about this event? How much should we spend on flowers? I want to do a 2-page appeal. That's going to cost more at the printer. Is that cool? What do you think? That's burning them out. Like that list, even just for me to say out loud, instead of high level, what are
Yes.
the actual things that we need them to go, yes, no, or that we want to partner with them? Yeah, it's
Right.
like it like turns into this weird internal admin minutia
Right. Like,
situation. Yeah,
yeah. It's not the purpose of the board. It is
it's
just
not.
not.
Yeah.
And it's and sometimes when I say these things out loud, Christina, I'll be honest with you, Christina. When I say these things out loud and I'm sitting across from a CEO, they shut down on me because they don't want to hear that. A lot of times, you have to be open to hear that. You have to be open to hear it,
Mm-hmm.
take it in, and say, okay, what can I do different? It is so much easier to say, well, my board won't let me, or my
Yes.
board won't do this.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
easy to do it. And that was a part of my journey too. I remember that. I was talking to a fellow CEO. His name is Patrick Wynn. He is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club in Northern Alabama. So go support him, y'all. And I remember sitting across from him saying, my board won't let me. I can't even remember what my board wouldn't let me do. My
Mm-hmm.
board would never let me do that, or something I said. And he just stopped and he looked at me. He said, what do you mean your board won't let you? He said, you're the boss. Your board is waiting on you. And I was like, oh, okay. All right now. So then that's what
Yes.
the board is waiting on me. So
Yes.
I need to develop the plan. I need to develop the plan and say, okay, this is where we're going. And how do you feel about that? It's not the validate it for me. Now,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with having like a board champion that you bounce ideas off of and do all that. But when you present it to the board, you have a well thought out plan, and then they can ask the questions and you have a well thought out response, and it's a partnership.
It
Now
is.
it's different.
Yes.
So
It's such a weird dynamic, but I guess it's just because I have young-ish kids. It's like I just see it so much of like if I said to my kids, well, like, gosh, I don't know. Like, I don't know how we're gonna afford that. I don't know about like you think your sister is gonna do okay and like or could you check out like everyone would be like very unconfident, very insecure, overwhelmed
yes,
versus the relationship where I give them the best version, the
right,
version we're working towards, the goal.
right.
And then I'm like, can we all work together? We actually had to clean out a closet because we were getting a new hot water heater. Not fun. None of this is fun. My daughter's closet. So I'm like, everybody's getting on board. We got to get rid of stuff. And it's like, okay, we can then partner as a team to get rid of it versus being like, this is going to be so hard. I don't want to do it. Right?
Yeah,
It's just but somebody has to have the CEO energy there, I think is
yes,
ultimately what I'm hearing from you is like
yes.
it takes somebody to step into that authority and then people will follow and also feel more energized to help.
They will follow, they will feel energized. So like they will have confidence in you because you know what you're doing, all of that. And piggyback, I'm gonna go back to say this starts with a good board recruitment process. Once you have that in place, a good onboarding and orientation and some good training around roles and responsibilities. Because if you go in there, you listen to this and you get all hyped up, right? And you go in there and you say, I'm the boss and this is what we're doing and all that. You still got to deal with that board who has no idea what their role is.
That's
and
right.
who may be micromanaging because that's the energy that has been produced so far. They're not going to change overnight. So don't go in there and be like, Christina and Sabrina said all I had to do was.
I'm going to tell you to do this. I'm going to tell you to stop doing it. That's right.
No. Right. The same way it takes some time to build that system, it takes time to dismantle.
Yes. So onboarding is key for new folks. That's really, really key. I think that's a miss for a lot of organizations. I think it's a miss because they're like, we're too busy to onboard, but we see the result of that. So I'm hearing onboarding.
Yes. And it's not from an email with a link that says, here's all our data and here's the folder in here. That's not
then what is it? What is it instead? If it's not that.
It is not that. Do not just do that to them. It is the best onboarding process that I've ever been involved in has been where you have, you invite the new members in and the current board members does the orientation. So the current secretary reviews, these are our bylaws. Here's a set of our last 3 minutes, blah, blah, blah. The treasurer says, this is the budget. This is how we move through it. This is, we have an endowment. We have this, we have that. They go through that. The board chair says, we expect you to attend 75% of the meetings in person. We do have the option for Zoom, but that's, if you're traveling, if you're doing that, we do have the expectation that every board member will give to the organization. We have this, that, and then it's the CEO. If especially this organization was facility based, then it's the CEO taking you on a tour.
I love that.
Or the organization, but you notice it was the board member speaking, not the CEO.
I love that. I love that. So, do you work with organizations? So, I want to kind of dig into how you work with organizations, but is one way. I'm thinking about the existing board, which is like, we kind of need to like shift the culture. We need to shift how it's working. Do you work with boards to turn that culture around?
Yes, I work with boards to turn that culture around. And it's a process, again, I'm a strong believer in board education. So it usually starts off with doing a board survey. What usually happens is a board chair would call me or a CEO will call me and they're like, my board, blah, blah, blah. And we need this and we need that. And I'm like, okay, that's good. We can tell them what they need, but let's give them an opportunity to have a voice and engagement. So let's send out a survey. Here's what it is and have them rank what trainings they think they need. And then based on that, we can set up a schedule and we can offer these trainings, whether they're in person, if they happen to be local, or virtual. And they commit to the time that is going to be required for them to become educated in this process, right? So that is one way. The other way that I work with boards, of course, is I love a good board retreat.
Yes.
Oh, I just love a good board retreat because you can walk out if you have the right theme and you know where you're going, you can really walk out and start changing some of the dynamics, right?
Yeah.
Well, a good board retreat.
And can I just say, a good retreat, I've been on business retreats, a good board retreat has a facilitator. That is a skill set. I think sometimes it's, the board is gathering together for a period of time overnight at a place. It is a science. It is an art. It is to be a facilitator, to ask those questions, to figure out the breakout. I wouldn't even know how to host a board of retreat, right? I just know how to attend one. I know how to attend one that is a retreat that is change making. You leave a different person, you leave with clarity. So having a facilitator is key, y'all, for the board retreat.
You need to have a good facilitator. It is exactly right. And sometimes you could, as CEO, you can say the same thing over and over again, and they will not hear you.
Don't they just need to hear it from a third party? That's right. Third party. Yeah.
And you are strategic in that. You have a conversation with the person who is facilitated beforehand to say, this is what we need to, this is the outcome that I'm looking for.
Yep.
And they will design their facilitation to get to that outcome. So it's all strategy. And so I don't want just like hire me to do your retreat and we don't have no conversations, because I need to know what your vision is and what you're trying to accomplish from this. And so I do that a lot. And I take on a couple of clients a year for coaching, because it starts in the mind. If your mind is not there, I can talk to them blue in the face. Christina can work with you until you're blue in the face. If you don't have the mind, you're not going to go. You're not going to execute. You're not going to get there. And you got to figure that out.
That's right. I love that. Yeah, totally agree. Mine's first. We ask every guest on the podcast to share a favorite thought, affirmation, a belief, something that's like a go-to that just really guides you forward, makes your heart full. Would you take a moment and share a thought that you like to think on purpose with us?
Well, it's not going to be as profound as you think. And I say this to myself all the time.
Yeah.
It is, well-behaved women rarely make history.
Oh, come on. That's so good.
I have
Say it again.
Well-behaved women rarely make history.
That's right.
You got to shake things up. That is what we're here for. And I have a shirt that says it. It's my motto on my Facebook page.
Yes.
I have it in my home. So, this thing about sitting back quietly is not something that I prescribe to. I just don't. And I know in order to make change, sometimes it's uncomfortable, but you got to do it anyway, because your goal is to leave the world in a better place in which you found it.
That's right.
And if you don't embrace that, then why are you here?
So good. That was a good one.
Good. Okay, good.
Tell everyone where we can connect with you, follow you, where you like to hang out online.
Well, I've been to enough courses and classes that say give one call to action. So call to action is you can visit my website at buildingbetterboards.com. But if the platform I hang out the most is LinkedIn under my name, Sabrina Walker.
We'll link your LinkedIn for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've left this conversation feeling very positive and also I can already feel myself just like all of my clients are going to get this to listen to. This is going to be very fulfilling and very like giving them the motivation, because whether it's just an inactive board or they know that they want to do more board recruitment, these are all solvable problems. You can right side this anytime you want. So thank you for giving us that.
Thank you.